video. I'm here in the airport waiting for my flight, so let me do a video real quick. Let me tell you something about when you hold on to certain thoughts and how that can open doors that you never thought you would go in. All right, back in the day I was in a situation and I was feeling really bitter, and instead of giving that bitterness to God, I began to let the bitterness just turn in my mind, and it began to take root and it began to affect my heart. Now what happens is, when you don't take betrayals or hurts or bitterness and give those things to God, it's like you're opening a door to the enemy. So what happened is the bitterness turned into anger, and I opened the door to that anger because I entertained the bitterness. I didn't give it into God's hands. I didn't give him praise and worship despite my situation. I just start feeling sorry for myself. And what begins to happen is you feel like you got to fix the situation somehow. And because you're not giving it to God, you're going to fail because you're going to think carnally, and you're going to be like, man, I got to fix this. I got to do something. So what happens is, I opened the door to bitterness. I didn't shut it down with the word of God. I didn't shut it down with praise. I didn't shut it down by putting it in God's hands. And it turned into anger. And then I wanted to release that anger. So I opened the door to anger. And what happened is that opened the door to fighting because I wanted to release that anger. So I used to always be like, man, I just want to go fight. I just want to explode on somebody. And what happened with that is when I opened the door to fighting, the only place that I was really going to be guaranteed to get a fight is if I went to the club. So I opened the door and I started going to the club, and I was fighting and going in the club. Once I got in the club, I just opened myself up to lust, and all these females walking around half dressed and all those different things. And it's so many ways, man. It could be betrayal, it could be hurt, it could be bitterness. You open the door to that bitterness and feeling sorry for yourself, and next thing you know, you're looking at your wife and you don't like her, and you open that door. The next door that opens is pornography. The next door that opens is prostitutes, and it just works for everybody the same way. You've got to capture that small thought, because if you don't, it's going to open one door and the devil's just going to keep opening another door, and then you're going to look back one day and you're going to be walking through so many doors and so far away from God, and you're like, man, this is not even what I wanted. I didn't want to be in the club committing fornication. I didn't want to be in the club drinking and getting on drugs. Where did it start? You got to get to the root of the problem. It all started with that one small thought that the enemy shot at your mind and you entertained it. Man, I'm feeling bitter. Man, I don't want to forgive that person. Man, I feel lonely. You know what I'm saying? And you start entertaining that thought of loneliness. You got to give those things to God. You got to capture those thoughts, because if you don't capture those thoughts, man, they can turn into many other things, man. You just got to release them, put them in God's hands, and he'll be strong in your weakness. Be real. Say, God, I'm lonely. God, I'm angry. God, I'm bitter. God, I don't want to forgive that person. And in your weakness, he will be strong. That's how you get the victory, man. Understand that it's a war. It's a fight. Things ain't always going to be easy. You're going to have to capture these thoughts. The enemy's always going to be trying to throw darts at your mind. And you got to protect yourself with the word of God. You got to protect yourself. You got to stop just reacting, and you got to act. You just got to be praying, attacking the enemy, and being strong, because you can't just wait for the devil to attack you. Sometimes he's going to attack you and he's going to catch you slipping, and you ain't even going to know how you get so far down the road and how you got so dark into sin, and you just out there and you're like, man, what happened to me? Why am I so far away from God? It all started with a little thought. It all started with a little unforgiveness. It all started with a little bitterness or feeling sorry for yourself, feeling lonely. But if you have faith and you put it in God's hands and you let him handle it, you'll never get down.